Okay, so welcome back. We're now part 3 of our discussion on Operation Tonga. And we've just landed at Boscombe, and now I'm going to fly over and come to Exeter. So we're going to take off from there, and we'll fly back now it's near to Blandford. Bear with me a second. Right, so Blandford. Now we are talking somewhere. There we are, Blandford Forum. Where's the best place to go? I think we're just going to fly to the, here. Okay, so what do we want to talk about here? Well, what I want to talk about is these bridges here, so we'll add them on, and we also want to talk about this place. Okay, let's go.
Exeter Tower, FLP Zulu Uniform Oscar 2717. Ready for west departure at runway 26.
Okay, let's just prepare the aircraft. Let's set a heading, runway heading. And we'll set an altitude. Yeah, something like that much. 2000-ish. Give it a bit of that. Okay, so let's get rid of this ATC as soon as we can. Just get rid of that. Okay, so let's get in the air then. Take off the brake. A little bit of right rudder. Airspeed active. Okay, GPS is fine. Full back power. So once Howard has been told his mission, he starts off with there's a series of operations called Operation Mush. Now I don't know where they happened. Probably near to Blandford. I don't actually know the actual place that it took place.
Exeter Tower. FOPs. Oscar 2717. Continue for west departure.
But what I do know is during those operations, they performed an attack on the bridge. It was one that was defended by, I think it was the Polish parachute battalion. There was they basically found out that they probably were firing on each other during this exercise. There was a lot of confusion, and one of the umpires told them that they had basically been shooting on themselves. So they learned from that experience to basically shout out the name of their unit. This mission is deemed really important, and Howard is given almost carte blanche for what he can do. He's given 2 more platoons to his company. He takes 2 from B company, so he's now got a 6 platoon company. They're going to be divided into 6 gliders, and the gliders contain something in the region of 30 men each. He's given a contingency of sappers. I believe about 20 sappers are given to him, and so we've got 6 gliders of at least 30 people. So we're talking about 180 men. That mission that he's given, the Mush, he's been told he can basically get whatever he likes within reason. He's told, if you want something, let us know. And he basically turns around to the planners and says, look, find me 2 bridges somewhere in Britain that are very similar to the outline of what we're going to be facing in France. And they come back to him with this. And this is Exeter. This is the Countess Wear Bridge in Exeter. And as you can see, you've got a canal on the left and a river on the right with 2 bridges. Somewhere on this bridge there's supposed to be a plaque. I'm not sure where that would be. They weren't dropped here by gliders. Glider landings are so dangerous that they didn't risk it. They were dropped basically here by a truck and told this is where they landed. So if you're talking strictly, this is Pegasus Bridge, then you would probably decide that these guys would be dropped probably where this building is, to give the same sort of thing. And then another, so 3 truckloads of guys would be dropped, say, on here to attack this bridge, and then another 3 would drop to here to attack this bridge. There's believed to be, I think one of the soldiers said that when they got back after the campaign, one of the local residents had sent them a bill for breaking his roof during this exercise. But this, I don't think it's got an actual name that was given to him. I think they conducted it over three days. Pretty close. I think in May time we're talking that this happened. So there we go. That is the Countess Wear Bridge. So this is a very important location in the D-Day planning. Now we are going to start to wind up this this broadcast. So the last thing I would want to talk about, let's talk about for a start the glider pilots. So and this is where we're heading at the moment. The operation was planned to be using 6 gliders. They were the Horsa gliders, they were known as, built by Airspeed. And they were piloted by 12 NCOs from C Squadron of the Glider Pilot Regiment. The Horsa has a wingspan of 88 feet, which is about 27 meters. It's about 20 meters long, which is about 67 feet, and has maximum payload of about 7,100 kilograms. So into one of these horses you can get 2 pilots and 28 troops. You can also get, if you wanted to, a mixture of jeeps, guns and trailers. Well, let me they were based at RAF Tarrant Rushton, and they would practice landing in tight spaces. They used, because a lot of the time they're landing at night, so they would use stopwatches, and they would actually train during the day using dark glasses, so that they could practice as if it was nighttime. Willie, I think it's Private Willie Parr, he says that some of the troops of the Oxen Bucks were given danger money if they would become passengers in these gliders, so they would allow 6 troops to join the glider. They'd get paid extra money, but it also, I suppose, it gave the glider pilots that sort of added edge. Also, it gave them the feeling of what it was like to have live cargo on board, because you know any changing in weight affects the gliders. So by May 1944, these glider pilots had trained, carried out 54 training sorties, flying in all sorts of weather. And a sign of how respected they were as pilots, they would actually carry with them on D-Day orders direct from Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, which was basically say that these guys, once they've done their job, were to make their way back to the beaches, and the orders that they were given were basically get these guys back to the UK as quickly as possible. So they were pretty well trained, pretty specialist troops that they did not want to waste being an infantry guy on the front. Right, so as we approach, we'll approach Tarrant Rushton, and we'll leave it there. If you have any questions, then please let me know. So Tarrant Rushton is going to be the place where the D Company is sent to. They get locked in, I suppose is the word. They get sealed into their camp, and it's these airborne troops are the ones where Eisenhower has to keep in mind when he makes his decision to go with D-Day. It's relatively easy to call back ships. It's less so to call back aircraft. So a decision had to be made before anybody took off. D Company taking off probably around about 11 o'clock in the night on the before D-Day. Were one of the first. There were Pathfinders who were going in, but as an actual major assault, they were the first that would be going down onto the battlefield. Now, just a little heads up then, I don't know if this is going to work, we'll see. If you want to help with these chats, let's just call them what they is, little chats, then you can come over to Discord. You'll find There, all the things I will be talking about coming up, the different sections and notes that I've made. If you think there's any information you can add, then go to the forum pages and you can just add it down at the bottom. This, for example, is the D-Day one, and as you'll see, usually what happens is at the top there'll be a timeline, and you'll be able to click on the time, and it will go to whatever. So this one is entitled Decomposed Seal into Tarrant Rushton, Dorset, England, and so I've got information and research that I've been making. So for example, as you can see, they were given fatless meals to reduce air sickness, which is an interesting insight. They would be towed by Halifax bombers, and when we get into the flight, which will start next week with the actual mission taking off from Tarrant Rushton. Yeah, there's information here. Like, you know, they're all painted in the D-Day stripes, you know, so that they wouldn't be shot down by their own ships and Air Force. The gliders were slotted basically into a bombing raid, so that they, you know, wouldn't they wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb. So we're going to be doing a lot of the route that they're going to take and the possible release point that they're given, and we'll see all that next week. So yeah, come along. You can see the link for Discord in the profile, in my profile on YouTube, and that will be really helpful if you can add a bit of information into anything here that you see. So if you want to go back to the timer, you can see there different bits and bobs. On the left here as well, you'll see the different subjects that I'm going to be talking about. There are a series of videos that I want to do. So there'll be subjects on the Falklands War, Vietnam, Second World War, D-Day. We're going to be looking at North Africa, Burma. They're all listed down here. You can come along and find your favourite subject. Even things like football, cricket. You can come down. There's a whole series of stuff on each, like here, football clubs or whatever, and you can add information to it. One thing you can't do is actually add your own subject. You can only add what I want to do, but it means that when I get to that section, we will have I will shout you out on the stream. This is some work I'm doing on Normandy. So this section on Operation Tonga is part of the D-Day section, which is just concentrating on the sort of first 24 hours. And then the Normandy campaign will then be going from June the 6th all the way up to the liberation of Paris, on August the 25th. Okay, so that is Discord. I hope you all appreciate this. It's all going on live, by the way. We are almost where we got to be. I didn't want to do any skipping, fast forwarding. I don't mind sort of going somewhere, taking off, coming back and land, and then moving somewhere else. But I wanted to get a lot of the time. I wanted to have that appreciation of the distances involved. So when we get so this is obviously it's been a bit of a higgledy-piggledy kind of thing. Trying to keep it chronological. Then next week we're actually going to be going straight into the actual thing. We'll be flying the same route as them. We'll be looking at the ground specifically, and we'll be looking at D-Day hour by hour all the way through. But by doing it real, you get a good sense of the distances. So I wanted it to be something that if we're looking at battlefields or anything like that, we had to make sure that we were actually really seeing and feeling the distances and times of those operations. We can see Portland Bill over on the horizon. We're looking at Dorset. So I hope that has been something that you can quite enjoy. I know that it's all a bit disjointed. Making sure that I'm doing a lot of the sort of talking from the top of my head, though it's good to have some help with some notes here and there. If you do go to the Discord page, you'll be able to see also there's recommended reading that you can look at. All the different books that I've read over the years on the different subjects. Again, if you have anything then to add to these, then please just add them onto it. What I will be doing is I'll be alternating talking on YouTube and Twitch. Twitch, I will tend to do a more of a sort of the flying side of things. Try to sort of keep more on the gaming kind of side of things, and on YouTube it would be more of the history. And so each week there will be one Twitch and there'll be one YouTube stream. And because Twitch doesn't keep the streams, and they are loaded up onto Spotify if you want to hear back on that. Right, we must be close now. Not quite. I tell you what I'll do. Let's use the camera. Let's head forwards. Beautiful part of the country, Dorset. This is Milton Abbas, I believe, just as a sort of side note. Very famous street. Well, famous because all of these ones are actually thatched cottages built because this here, which I believe is now a school, but it was an abbey, created this salmon lake and flooded the village, and I believe they then the owner built the village up this hill instead. Anyway, that's a side fact. Which means we're getting near to Blandford. Which is here, I think. And we're looking for Tarrant Rushton. So this, I think, is Blandford Forum. And here. It's no longer used anymore. It's a disused airfield, but this is RAF Rushton. Tarrant Rushton, sorry. You can see the outline of the runway. There was probably 3, usually, to make sure that there's always one that they can use into the wind. There's definitely one there. Probably another one on this axis here. But this is RAF Tarrant Rushton. So this is the airfield the D Company took off from. There's probably some buildings here or something. You can. It's amazing detail when you're using the satellite imagery. You can really make out outlines of old buildings. So this is where we will start off next week when we fly over there. You can see in the distance here, this is Poole Harbour. We have Bournemouth. You can just see the Isle of Wight. And Normandy is over in that direction. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I will see you all next week.